Welcome back to Recap Nation. Today, we're diving into a thrilling journey of survival, science, and interstellar friendship with Project Hail Mary. Our story begins with Ryland Grace, waking up in a medical bay with complete amnesia, surrounded by advanced technology. A computer voice informs him he's been in a medically induced coma and may experience memory loss. Struggling to move, Grace soon discovers he's not alone, but his fellow crewmates are deceased. He pieces together that he's on a spaceship, far from Earth, but can't recall why or how he got there. His confusion deepens as he realizes the star outside isn't our sun, but a distant one. Flashback to Earth, 2 years prior, the world is in crisis. A mysterious phenomenon called the Petrova line is dimming our sun. This line is a streak of infrared light from the sun to Venus, caused by tiny space dots. These space dots are actually consuming the sun's energy, threatening to plunge Earth into a new ice age. Enter Eva Stratt, head of the International Task Force. She recruits Ryland Grace, a disgraced molecular biologist turned middle school teacher. Stratt values Grace's unconventional theories, especially his belief that life doesn't always require water. Grace is tasked with analyzing samples of these space dots, which are now named astrophage. He bravely enters a sterile, argon-filled room to study the dangerous extraterrestrial lifeforms. After a tense moment where he thinks they're inert, he discovers they are indeed alive and moving. To his surprise, the astrophage are water-based organisms, contradicting his long-held scientific belief. He learns they consume the sun's energy and expel infrared light for propulsion, effectively tooting to scoot. Grace then hypothesizes that astrophage travel to Venus because its CO2-rich atmosphere is essential for their reproduction. He proves this by creating a mini-Venus environment in a plywood box, successfully breeding astrophage. This breakthrough leads to a shocking revelation. Stratt grants him top-secret clearance for Project Hail Mary. The sun isn't the only star dying, a clear pattern of astrophage infection is spreading across the galaxy. However, one star, Tau Ceti, 11.9 light-years away, remains uninfected despite its proximity to others. Project Hail Mary's goal is to send a ship to Tau Ceti, find out why it's immune, and bring back a solution. The astrophage themselves will be the fuel for this interstellar journey, capable of near-light speed travel. But there's a catch: the mission is a one-way trip, with no fuel for return, meaning the astronauts will die in space. Grace meets his fellow crewmates, Commander Yao, Engineer Ilyakina, and Science Officer Du Bois, along with their backups. He demonstrates the immense power of astrophage fuel by melting a metric ton of metal with less than a gram. During training, a horrific accident occurs. A mismeasurement of astrophage causes an explosion. This catastrophic error kills the entire science team, leaving Grace as the only astrophage expert. Despite his protests and fear, Stratt forces Grace to become the mission's new science officer. His amnesia was a deliberate act by Stratt, inducing a coma to protect him from the trauma of the accident. Back in the present, Grace, now orbiting Tau Ceti, detects an anomaly, a large, alien spaceship, which he calls Blip A. He cautiously approaches it, only for it to send a smaller probe, Blip B, towards his ship. Fearing it's a bomb, Grace prepares for impact, but the probe attaches itself harmlessly. He undertakes a dangerous spacewalk to retrieve the probe, a terrifying experience for the untrained scientist. Inside, he discovers the probe is made of an unknown, metallic substance, which he later identifies as solid xenon. Suddenly, a much larger alien ship, Blip D, approaches, and Grace realizes he's not alone in this desperate mission. He makes contact with the alien, a spider-like creature with a thick, rocky exoskeleton, and names him Rocky. Rocky's species communicates through musical tones and tapping, a challenge for Grace to understand. They use math as a universal language to bridge the communication gap, slowly building a shared vocabulary. Rocky reveals his home star, 40 Eridani, is also dying from astrophage, making them allies in a shared crisis. Grace learns that Rocky's crew died from radiation exposure, a side effect of astrophage fuel, which Grace's ship also uses. Rocky, naturally protected by his exoskeleton, survived, but his ship, made of xenonite, is vulnerable. The two decide to combine their knowledge and resources to find a solution to the astrophage problem. Rocky, being a master engineer, helps Grace set up a proper lab on the Hail Mary, converting a storage area. They discover that Tau Ceti E, which Grace names Adrian after Rocky's mate, has a unique biosphere. This biosphere contains a microscopic predator that consumes astrophage, keeping Tau Ceti's population in check. To collect this predator, they devise a daring plan, fishing in Adrian's turbulent atmosphere. Rocky constructs a 5-kilometer chain with a collector at the end, while Grace must pilot the ship backwards. The mission is perilous, any miscalculation could result in the destruction of the ship and both their lives. Grace, with his limited piloting experience, struggles but manages to maneuver the Hail Mary. He performs a harrowing spacewalk to retrieve the collector from Adrian's fiery atmosphere. During the retrieval, the ship suffers critical damage, with fuel tanks compromised by Adrian's extreme gravity. They are forced to jettison several fuel compartments, significantly reducing their astrophage supply. In a moment of vulnerability, Grace reveals to Rocky that his mission is a one-way trip, and he will die in space. Rocky, deeply moved, offers to transfer some of his ship's astrophage to Grace, enabling Grace's return to Earth. This sacrifice would extend Rocky's journey home by 6 years, but he insists on saving his new friend. Grace, overwhelmed, accepts, realizing the depth of their bond and the gravity of Rocky's selfless act. They successfully capture the astrophage predator, which Grace names Tamoeba. Grace then makes a horrifying discovery: the Tamoeba, bred in xenonite tanks, can eat through xenonite. This means Rocky's ship, entirely constructed from xenonite, is fatally compromised, and he will be stranded. Rocky faces a slow, painful death from fuel starvation and radiation, alone in deep space. Grace now faces an impossible choice: return to Earth to save humanity, or abandon his mission to save his friend, Rocky. He chooses friendship. Grace decides to send the Tamoeba and all his findings back to Earth via probes. He then turns his ship around, embarking on a dangerous journey to intercept Rocky's vessel and save him. Grace reaches Rocky's ship, helps him repair the xenonite, and together, they head back to Erid. Earth receives the probes and the Tamoeba, allowing humanity to begin fighting the astrophage threat. Ryland Grace, the reluctant hero, becomes a teacher on Erid, helping Rocky's species cultivate their planet and thrive. He finds his true calling, educating young Iridians about the universe, just as he once taught on Earth. Project Hail Mary is a testament to human ingenuity, the power of unlikely friendships, and the universal drive to survive. It's a story that reminds us that sometimes, the greatest sacrifices lead to the most profound connections.